this is the story of a piece of research that I have done as part of my Masters in Innovation, Creativity and Leadership at Bayes College, City University of London. I see that Billy has joined us. She was one of the first cohort of this incredible course nearly 10 years ago now. And I think what is useful about what we're going to see is not only the results, but also the learning process throughout that, and how we can all kind of discover more about our own creativity by looking into other people's and understanding what they mean by that. Okay. So I think we'll just start with a film, 3 seconds of film taken from last year's creativity conference. Apologies, the volume has died, but that doesn't matter because we can see the subtitles. And our delegate here says, everyone talks about how curiosity is what leads to innovation. But there's a second ingredient here, which is creativity. And I just couldn't have put that better myself. So I run the film. We're all on the same page. Lots of people believe that curiosity and creativity are interlinked. This research kind of tries to pull them apart and then put them back together again in a way that is helpful to business. So, interestingly, creativity is the problem and the solution for global businesses. Global Businesses surveyed for the Forum Future of Jobs Report 2023, that's released only a couple of months ago, reported a soft skills shortage, with creativity simultaneously being the problem, there isn't enough, but also the solution, because creative problem solving can fix the issue of there not being enough creativity in businesses. Just bear with me, people. Okay. Why is this important? Well, creativity pays. There is a score applied by McKinsey, which surveys all the businesses who win the Cannes Lions Awards for Creativity. If you don't know what they are the premier awards for creative businesses. They happen every year, and people who win the Cannes Lions are regarded as the most creative businesses in the world. So companies whose award creativity scores were in the top quartile performed better than their peer firms in 3 key financial measures. 67% had above average organic revenue growth, 70% had above average total return to shareholders, 74% had above average net enterprise value. Let's put it this way. What we have in spades is what companies need to succeed. Okay. So now it's time for me to ask the questions. The question I asked of myself for the research was, can the innate curiosity of individuals unlock creativity within their organizations? And if so, what could a process or model that harnesses that creativity and turn it into systemic organizational creativity look like? These are 2 big questions. They're big asks. I didn't expect the survey to answer it, but I think it gave us some valuable pointers as to where we might take this thinking. There were 2 types of research done. Qualitative, that is talking to individuals and understanding what their thoughts and feelings were about curiosity and creativity. We'll call that qual because qualitative is a hard word to say. I did 9 in-depth interviews with curious creative individuals. They lasted about an hour long and they were pretty wide-ranging. The 9 individuals included my boss's boss's boss, a man called Rob Riley, who's Chief Creative Officer of the WPP Agency Network, a professor of mathematics and astrophysics, an abstract artist, a former detective inspector of the Met Police, which is London's police force, a designer, DJ, singer, and model. That's one person doing those 4 things. A chief economist who has also written 6 #1 singles in the UK. So a musician and a thinker at the same time. A general manager at Lego's internal agency, one of the most creative businesses in the world. And her role is to unleash people's creativity within Lego. An explorer and a filmmaker, and a professional maverick, Billy Khan, who was listening to this. Each of these conversations were wide-ranging. They covered a number of subjects about curiosity and creativity, how that might work in organizations, how they felt about their own curiosity, how they felt about their own creativity. To be fair, we did kind of go down a few rabbit holes, if you like, when we had the conversations. But we also managed to answer all the questions I needed to ask. We came out with 5 key themes that would help me progress my thinking. One of them is that openness is essentially essential to creativity within a business environment. Whether it's this source is open and ready to learn, or this is from our Lego general manager. It's about being open-minded, assuming that I enter a room thinking I know nothing. So ready to learn is a key characteristic that we found with all our creative and indeed our curious people. Creativity needs problems to solve. The only reason you are creative is a problem. Now, that problem might be inner directed. How do I express my emotional reaction to what I see ahead of me? Or it might be commercial. How do I help this business enter the upper quartile of performers amongst its peers? All requires creativity. There's 2 great quotes, just anecdotes here. The mathematician I spoke to had 2 seemingly unconnected tasks that were drawn together by his personal creativity. He worked for a food business where they had a cheesecake, blueberry cheesecake, and they found out that customers didn't like the juice from the fruit soaking into the creamy white cheesecake slice. So he had to find a way to kind of stop that happening, working with food technologists, other scientists. Previously, he had worked at a jet air turbine company where he found a more efficient way for the heat to move through the turbine and thus consume less fuel. All this was done through a mathematical equation, an act of creativity. And he found that the equation he used to solve the jet engine problem was exactly the same equation that would solve the food problem. Really interesting that creativity needs problems, but sometimes the same creative solution can solve those problems. And of course, we've all seen this before. If you want a different result, you need to think differently. And that is pure creativity in its essence. Curiosity is an antecedent of creativity, or in other words, comes before it, causes it. A lot of our interviewees were very kind of assertive about this. I think curiosity drives creativity. You're curious about making things better, getting back to the problem-solving thing. My film producer, who I spoke to, said, I'd say my creativity comes from finding a source of things, multiple sources, more sources of things that kind of interest me. So he moves away from the obvious, but it does prompt his creativity. He's kind of diving deeper into subjects. He was talking about a program that he was making about Greenland, and it started talking about the wildlife and the environment. and ended up asking more and more questions. And the documentary itself ended up being about the people who live in Greenland and survive there. So just asking more questions, kind of indulging his curiosity, if you like, gave to that new experience. Another thing that came out was that curiosity and creativity are one. My abstract artist, fine artist, said something's fade into each other, but it wouldn't say it's the same thing. So, you know, they found nuance within that space. Again, this is my film producer saying an actual curious person is also an executor. So it feels like they are almost two sides of the same coin. And we'll kind of talk about that a little bit when we get into quant research as well. Interestingly, we also had a theme that created attention within itself, which is organizational creativity of the pipe dream. Is it an impossibility? Could it ever happen? The chief economist said, can you impose creativity? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. The Lego general manager said, absolutely. I mean, we do it. We train organizations. Of course we do. It's totally possible. So there's some really interesting tension there where organizations are desperate for creativity. They see it provides competitive advantage. They see it as an essential soft skill. Number two in the list provided by the World Economic Forum after analytical thinking. But is it possible to make? Well, let's face it, the jury's still out on that one. Dipping into the quantitative research now. So that is research that relies on going out to a wider number of people, asking a set number of specific questions, getting the results back in numerical form. So I created an online-only survey. The sample was taken within a 7-day time box. The link to the survey was distributed via email through my company, Wonderland Thompson. I just did an all-agency email asking people to take part. WhatsApp groups that I'm part of, particularly those connected with my academic studies and also my my creative kind of self, and LinkedIn. You know, LinkedIn. Got a lot of connections on LinkedIn. You just ask something out there and people will help and people will share. It's a really great community for finding, you know, answers and responses to calls to action very quickly. I'd recommend that anyone who's worried about getting enough respondents for a survey that they may make, go to your LinkedIn network. You know, it will help you. So in that 7-day time box, I ended up with 156 unique respondents. That's a decent enough number of people to make it a robust survey for the purposes of this research question. The questions themselves for the survey were based on the qual interviews. We created themes from the qual interviews and we kind of pulled those through. So they were the nature of curiosity and creativity, questions about people who are curious and creative, how curiosity and creativity affect their work or their study, and the characteristics of curious and creative people, plus some demographic graphic data gathering, which allowed me to understand that I had enough kind of spread of people, whether it's through age, the age range spread from 18 to people in their 70s. I had a pretty much 50-50 male-female gender split. About 76 people were in current employment. So there was smaller were kind of semi-retired, and at the other end, still in education, therefore not employment. So we had a really kind of good spread of people. The survey is still live. I'm going to put the link at the end of the presentation. And if people want to follow me at LinkedIn, I will pin a post with that link after the conference. Okay, let's get to the big numbers. So what's clear from the numbers is that curiosity and creativity are in a relationship. One of the statements was curiosity and creativity are the same thing. 99 respondents strongly or slightly disagree. 39 respondents strongly or slightly agreed. So from the qual, it seems to be that people don't agree with the initial reactions from my interviewees. You know, there's a tension there, there's a conflict, you need to understand that. Curiosity and creativity are the two sides of the same coin. 83 respondents strongly or slightly agreed, 44 strongly or slightly disagreed. So 50% of that kind of positive response to that were against it. So slightly closer than the previous one. To be fair, I think some people have different understanding of what two sides of the same coin mean, because all I did was put that question out, didn't explain it. Interestingly, curiosity triggers creativity really came through. So we talked about curiosity being an antecedent of creativity with the qual. 128 people strongly or slightly agreed, and only 7 respondents strongly or slightly disagreed. So they're interesting. We thought that might be the winner until we saw that curiosity and creativity feed each other. 144 respondents strongly or slightly agreed, and no one strongly or slightly disagreed. That is overwhelming. That you don't get results like that hardly ever in a survey that's this kind of abstracted. Really interesting, and it kind of led to some interesting thinking at the back end of that. So inspiring stuff for us all. So what next? What comes out of this survey? Hopefully, I get a great mark for my masters. That's obviously the most important thing for me. But also, this survey adds to the kind of ocean of knowledge about curiosity and creativity, but brings a new aspect to it. I'd encourage anyone who is watching this to hopefully participate in my survey, but also think about the nature of their curiosity and their creativity and how that might be applied in the commercial world. Really interesting stuff. I have 2 nascent thoughts that I'd like to share with you. Currently writing papers on both of them to see where they might take us. The first is about progressive loops of curiosity and creativity, coming off this idea that curiosity and creativity do feed each other. I like the idea that these kind of loops, draws in the air with his finger, captures that kind of mutual kinetic power of curiosity and creativity in a more realistic and organic way than current hard-edged and flexible models. I'm thinking about the UK Design Council's double diamond method, thinking about the creative problem-solving models created by Alex Osborne. We have a fluid and unpredictable world, and it feels like we need something that is fluid and unpredictable in itself and flexes through that. So there's a kind of nascent thought there. The other idea that kind of works with curiosity and creativity feeding off each other is the flywheel of creativity. Again, a thought experiment that captures the interdependent nature of curiosity and creativity by means of kind of virtual loops and pulleys. Other desirable soft skills, for example, analytical thinking, are added to that powerful curiosity and creativity interaction, creating a multiplier effect, much like a mechanical flywheel connects a supercharger to an engine. And that is the final slide. I would just like to leave everyone with a quote from the Great Jefferson Airplane, constantly asking you to feed your head through curiosity and creativity